Well, child labor, of course, is an issue that is extremely relevant to rural development. 1 in 10 children around the world is exploited in a child labor situation. And it turns out that 60% of child labor takes place in agriculture. So this issue is a key issue for sustainable rural development.
The largest category of child labour is what is called hazardous child labour, which is children under 18 working in poor conditions of health and safety. So one of the things that we do through the ILO with the FAO and other bodies is we help train farmers and farm workers on basic health and safety risk assessment.
And most of the time in rural areas we have economic conditions that pushes children to be used also as workers, and through formalization one might also want to address their child labor.
There are a number of important strategies to be able to address the issue. First, of course, is making producers, for instance, aware that it is dangerous and it undermines the development of children themselves to be engaged in any kind of activity that could be considered hazardous to them, but also to be engaged in work that prevents them from going to school. Another issue is law enforcement. There are typically a number of laws that exist in countries to address this issue, mostly labor laws for the most part, but also some forms of criminal law. And unfortunately, the laws are not understood or properly enforced. So law enforcement, and in particular the effective action of labor inspectors and other enforcement agents is also critical. So we put a lot of emphasis on strengthening the capacity of law enforcement officials. Perhaps one of the key strategies that is most relevant to where we see child labor in rural areas is ensuring that there are sufficient coverage in terms of social services for the most vulnerable groups. So here I'm talking about ensuring that there are enough schools, for instance, in rural areas for every child to have an opportunity to go to school and to complete at least what we consider to be the fundamental level of education.
Income replacement for child labour is not the sole solution, because in many cases the reason children are working in family enterprises, unpaid, and that's what most child labour is, unpaid work in family enterprises in the rural economy. It's not just that they're working to increase the family income. In some cases they are working because the family enterprise is not productive enough, not viable enough to afford to hire adult labour. And that's why the upskilling and the upgrading of these small enterprises, as part of the process towards formalisation, is so central. We need better work, better enterprises in the rural economy that provide decent incomes and livelihoods for families without their children working, so their children can be at school and in skills training and improve their skills.
So the new recommendations on 204 also highlights the need to address child labour in the formalization process in the rural areas.